Welcome back, minors. My name is Amber Johnston, and I'm a counselor here at Student Wellbeing.
And I'm Tracy Kriegel, and I'm a counselor here at Student Wellbeing as well. It's time for your morning cup of joe.
So, Tracy, do you have a favorite comfort cartoon?
Oh gosh, my favorite cartoon has always been Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo?
You got it.
Gotta love Scooby.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Right. It's classic.
Right.
I think half of the TV shows that we've got now would not be popular if it was not for, I call us the Scooby generation.
Right.
Like all the people that grew up with Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Think about it, like NCIS and all that. And then you even have shows like Buffy, and then she even called her people the Scooby Gang.
Yeah, absolutely. Police detective movies. I mean, gosh, where would it be without Scooby-Doo?
Right.
Velma and Shaggy and Velma.
Right. So personally, I'm a big fan of Emperor's New Groove, but I watch a lot of old Disney cartoons on a regular basis. I've got to introduce my kids to all the old ones.
Right.
So we'll watch some Mickey Mouse, maybe some Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Lion King. I love that kind of stuff. I love those old Disney classics. And of course, I know all the songs, and even though I can't sing, I've got to sing along very loudly.
Frozen, Let It Go.
Yes. We've been known to belt that one out as well.
Do it. Yep.
And it's probably offensive to some people's ears, but
it's okay.
It's fun.
You ever see those shows on, the YouTube or the Reels where they're in the car, where they're bebopping along and they're singing and they're lip syncing? This would be the Frozen song.
I don't lip sing. I just
belt it out.
We're singing the top of our lungs.
Yeah.
And it irritates my middle child to no end. He is no. And them's the breaks.
It's okay. It's fun.
So this week, I want to talk about cartoons and why we as adults still watch them.
They're great. They're good for us.
So for clarity, what we're defining as cartoons for this week's episode is cartoons specifically, not the broader category of animation, which include things like anime. Anime has a lot more complex storylines. Things tend to go from episode to episode, changing more. They're closer. I would consider anime to be closer to a drama or an actual movie or television show, live action, than it would be to a cartoon. A cartoon, on the other hand, is very simplistic drawing. Typically, it's very everything resets at the end of the episode. It's nothing ever changes. And to illustrate that point, Bart Simpson and I are the same age.
Right. He never gets older.
Yeah, if Bart Simpson would have aged, he would be in his 40s at this point. We started in the same, we were the same age when he started, when he first appeared. So, but in The Simpsons, the show's been running for 30-something years now, he's always a 10-year-old. And he'll forever be a 10-year-old.
Right. And
so that's what defines a cartoon from the broader category of animation. Even things like their house or Maggie. And Maggie's still a baby. Think about it. She's like a 33-year-old infant at this point.
She still never got any bigger. Come on, Maggie, get older.
She can walk, but not very well. So we're not even going to define cartoons as being geared towards children. So we're going to pull in adult-centered cartoons too, and that would be more like your BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, and Family Guy, things like that are
South Park.
Yeah, that are South Park, things that are made for adults but that still fit into that cartoon category. And since the early 2000s, we've really seen an uptick in those. I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems like there were no adult cartoons prior, and then it was late 90s, early 2000s hit, and it was just boom, adult cartoons everywhere.
Yeah, lots of them.
So, and it really kind of started like with The Simpsons was the first cartoon that was really not just geared towards children, but kind of like the whole family. And it started as like a short on an adult show called Tracy Ullman, and then it kind of morphed into being more of like a family show. And then you had Family Guy came around, and you had a South Park came around. I think South Park was first, and then Family Guy.
I think the other day you were talking about a new one that's called Bluey, is that right?
Right. So Bluey is a kid's cartoon of all things. And here's the funny part is that I am talking to a lot of 20 somethings and 30 somethings that are telling me that they're watching Bluey, this cartoon that's literally made for 4 and 5 year olds.
Right.
And I've watched it and I can tell you like absolutely I get it.
Yeah.
Like I totally get it. Like you feel seen. I was watching an episode the other day and I was laughing so hard. I had tears streaming down my cheeks, Tracy. Like it was crazy. So in the episode, they're playing hairdressers with dad and so they've got dad and mom sitting there and they're doing their hair. Well, they decided that dad had lice.
Uh-oh.
And so you can see where this is going.
I can see where this goes.
So the accuracy for which they portray children's reactions to things is absolutely spot on, because they absolutely abused that poor father. Like they covered him in soap and stuck him in the shower and were like hosing him up and like yelling about killing the bugs and the bugs. And it was just like, it was like I was laughing so hard, like tears streaming down my cheeks. And like when you watch an episode of it, you see like the family car and it's got trash all over the back seat. And I'm like, as a mother of small children, I feel so seen.
This is great. It's normalized.
Yes, it was normalized. And that's what's great about that show. But you're getting people that are, you know, in their 20s and early 30s, and some people that don't even have kids that are watching the show. Why? That was the question that kind of brought me to make this, you know, to write this episode. So let's look at cartoons in general. So first of all, we have the animation itself that kind of draws us. It's generally bright, it's got clean lines, it captures our attention, and once we start watching, we're kind of drawn to the simple storylines, the simple animation. Characters are very two-dimensional. You know, the Tom always wants to catch Jerry. He doesn't have underlying motivations. Like he's just seriously that. Not even two-dimensional. I would say one-dimensional.
Yeah, cat mouse. I'm getting the mouse. That's my goal. I'm going to get the mouse.
Right. Yeah. He's got no other motivations. He's not depressed that day or anxious, or he's not worried about the economy or the gas prices. He's not worried about getting a good grade on his paper or, you know, anything. All he is worried about is catching the mouse. Like very simple, straightforward, one-dimensional, catch the mouse.
Yep. Whatever I gotta do, I'm getting him.
Yeah.
Extremes of whatever I have to do is I'm gonna get him.
And whether it's the first time or the 1,000th time I turn on Tom and Jerry, what am I gonna see?
Him chasing Tom. Tom's chasing Jerry.
And what is gonna happen at the end of the episode?
He never gets him.
Right. And what's going to happen the next time I turn it on?
Going after him, he never gets him.
There you go.
But at some point, sometimes they become friends too, because they have to work together sometimes to fight the dog.
Fair. Fair. So there's like a hierarchy of conflict involved in here. Now we're getting into the geopolitics of cartoons.
Right.
But ultimately, at the end of the episode, Tom's going to keep trying to catch Jerry, and Jerry's going to keep laughing at him and pointing and getting away. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So you can rely on them always being the same. That's the root of what I'm trying to say here.
Right, exactly.
So sometimes you get a character that evolves.
Right.
So let's talk about those for a second. Those are very rare. And most of the time, it's a bad character that becomes good. They become enlightened. They become, whatever. They're good. Very rarely it goes the other direction where it was a good character that goes bad. It's typically a good character who was secretly what we thought was a good character that was secretly bad, kind of like Hans in Frozen. Was it Hans in Frozen?
Frozen,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like him. But typically it goes the other way. It's like a bad character that sees the light and finds the good and everything, So it's that very optimistic. And for that, my illustration would be like Kuzco in Emperor's New Groove.
Gotcha.
And so for him, he wanted to like tear down the village and build his super vacation resort with a pool that he was gonna like resort castle with a pool that he was gonna build on this hill because it had the best lighting.
Gotcha.
He was gonna tear down the whole village for it, but then he realizes that other people matter too, and it's not just all about him.
His plan may not have been the best plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he actually starts to care about other people, but like taking those examples out and because again those two situations happen, but they're not as common in cartoons. Most of the time when you go into a cartoon, a good character is a good character, a bad character is a bad character, and never shall they cross.
Right.
Like they will not. But people aren't that way.
Right.
People are a lot more complex than that.
Very much so. Hard to read sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard when like it's somebody that you admire or somebody you like, and then you find out something really bad about them, and you have to deal with those feelings of how can this person be good and do this thing at the same time. And so people are a lot more complex. Cartoon characters are a lot easier that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about how comforting that is.
It's easy to read.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like a plate of food. You know what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Right. Somebody explained this to me, like, and I'm gonna make this analogy towards cartoons too. I've talked about before that I have a child that's on the spectrum, and they explained why with individuals on the spectrum they often pick very processed foods as their favorite foods, like chicken nuggets or Cheez-Its or things like that. The reason why is because if I eat one Cheez-It or if I eat 1,000 Cheez-Its, every single one of them is the same. But if I eat an apple, sometimes the apple's sweet, sometimes it's tart, sometimes it has a bad spot on it, sometimes it's a little more waxy, sometimes it's more mealy.
It's unpredictable.
It's unpredictable. Whereas the Cheez-Its, always going to be the same. I always know what to expect. With cartoons, it's kind of the same way.
Right.
Because I know that when I turn it on, if I expect this person to be a good person, he's always going to be good.
Right.
SpongeBob is never going to try to steal the Krabby Patty recipe. He's always going to be good.
Right.
And the reason why that's comforting is because in the real world, it sometimes feels like people are out trying to take advantage of us all the time. But in the cartoon world, they would be wearing a giant sign saying, I'm the bad guy. It's kind of like in those old cartoons where they wear the big like black hats and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're saying that, I was thinking about Cinderella. And you remember, or not Cinderella, Snow White. Do you remember in Snow White when the witch was it was the forest scene where the witch was in there brewing, and she had the hood on,
the cloak, yeah,
the cloak, and like you see her like in the forest, and like she's in there in the little cottage, and she's like stirring the soup, and the scene comes into her, and you're like, she comes out, and you like turn around, she's got the big old warty nose, and you're like, this is not gonna end good.
Right.
Like it's predictable. Like she's the bad character. Like that's not a kind little happy little moment in there. There's something not good about this character.
Right. They make it obvious. Even if they try to make it so that it's not obvious but obvious.
Because the cottage looks all nice and cute. It's sitting in the woods. It's a quaint little place, but then you go inside and it's like, yeah, this isn't happy and friendly in here. And she turns around. It's like, I think I should leave quickly.
I like how
Back
even
out slow.
I like how even when she makes the potion, the
Yeah.
little skull and
Uh-huh.
crossbones comes out as she's stirring it. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, just back away slowly.
right. But think about how comforting that is in the unpredictability of regular everyday life.
Yeah.
In everyday life, there are no warning signs. There's no little rising little green skull and crossbones to show you where the
Right.
the evil wicked witch doesn't always have the long
Nose.
nose with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
it's not always like that.
Yeah.
It's in real life, things aren't always.
Transparent.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so Enchanted, like there was this movie called Enchanted. Have you ever seen Enchanted?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who haven't, Enchanted is a live action movie with Amy Adams, right?
I think so.
I think it's Amy Adams. And she is dropped in, she is a character from a kid's princess movie. Dropped in the middle of New York City in modern day. And it's absolutely hilarious. They just made a sequel to it too. I think it's called Disenchanted.
Yep.
And it's absolutely hilarious if you've never seen like the first one. The basic idea that's in cartoons is this infectious optimism. Like, I'm going to be able to see the bad guy. I'm going to be able to trick the bad guy, even if I don't know what's happening. I'm going to outwit him accidentally. SpongeBob does that all the time.
Right.
And at the end of the episode, everything's going to be okay. So it's kind of this warm hug that we get when we watch it, because everything's always okay.
Right. You want to have that happy fairy tale ending. Disney movies are wonderful for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But even like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Wile E. Coyote's never going to catch the Roadrunner. He's going to try. He's going to make a fool out of himself. He's going to get squished by an anvil, blow on his thumb, and reinflate himself.
And the dynamite's always going to go.
He's going to blow himself up, but magically everything's going to be fine, and he will never actually be hurt, and everybody will be okay at the end. And even if he gets all of his teeth knocked out, he's back the next day, or even 5 seconds later, trying to catch Roadrunner again. And yeah, it's funny, but think about how optimistic that is.
Yeah. He never gives up.
Right.
He just keeps coming back and going, uses those critical thinking skills and thinks, what can I do next? Yeah, let's try this. Yep, I'm going to do that. Yep. And just puts on a new thinking cap and goes at it again.
Well, and the fact that it's always like the ending is always happy.
Yeah.
Like everything's always beep beep beep, and then
beep 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 beep.
Yeah, at the end, and then everything's going on. Yeah. Cartoons can help us regulate our negative emotions.
Right.
So whether it's Bluey, whether it's SpongeBob, whether it's Wile E. Coyote, whether it's Scooby-Doo, they help us regulate our emotions. Humor and anxiety can't exist in the same space.
Right.
Like I heard that quote once, and it's always stuck with me, and it's fantastic. Yeah. Because if you think about it, how often have you seen somebody laugh because they were feeling anxious?
True.
Why do we do that? We do that because we're trying to dispel some of that anxiety. It's a nervous laughter that happens to get rid of anxiety. Does it make it feel better? Absolutely. Yeah. Because humor and anxiety can't coexist in the same space at the same time. So if we're watching a cartoon that's funny, what's going to happen? It's going to reduce our anxiety symptoms. It's going to be predictable. It's going to be easily, like, it's going to amuse us. It's going to be something different. It's going to be, Yeah,
it's interesting. You know, if you've ever done a study on the muscles in your face, it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. So you ever hear that?
I've heard that quote before.
Give your face a break and smile.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back to that thought. You know, there's when I do my positive mindfulness program, there's one of our meditations, which is a smiling meditation.
Really? I've never heard of smile meditation.
Smiling meditation. And so when people get distracted with a meditation, one of our techniques we talk about is when you're finding your mind getting distracted, bring a smile and let that smile bring your mind back to the moment. And it's interesting because when you try that, when we get distracted, if you smile, smiling is a positive energy. It's a positive, way of allowing yourself to just bring that positive emotion.
Oh, I
So
love that.
it's so great, So um, emotional energy is found within that, So smiling is a way to bring out, positive energy and positive emotions. So yeah. So just thinking about that when you're sitting there laughing and watching a cartoon, you're watching Scooby Doo chase, the ghost, or you're watching Tom and
Ghost
Jerry.
chase Scooby-Doo.
Or ghost chase Scooby Doo, sorry.
No, I'm saying it happens
Yeah,
both
happens
ways.
both ways. Yeah, exactly. So, and you're smiling,
Yeah.
you're laughing. One of the cartoons that just came to my mind was my kids was Clifford, the big red dog.
Oh, yes.
Blue's Clues, Dora the Explorer, all these things from when kids this age were a lot younger, and all the things that we watch, you laugh
Yeah.
and you smile, and so it brings back positive energy and positive emotions, and so it gets elicited from cartoons.
You get to what?
Gets elicited from cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cartoons, you can think about funny stuff in the cartoons and stuff. There are sitcoms out there that are obviously going to be funnier than a cartoon. I'm just saying, it's going to have, it's going to
Friends.
The Office. They're Parks and Rec. They're going to be funnier.
Yeah.
But when you look at the cartoon, in those other shows, there's complex storylines.
Yes.
There's anxiety produced because there's in The Office, there's the will they, won't they get to, of the get together with this person and the interpersonal conflict and all that. Do we ever have that in an episode of SpongeBob?
No. Yeah. Did Joy get the role in the movie? It's so anxiety producing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because that Plankton is going to be trying to steal the Krabby Patty recipe.
Yeah.
And that he's never going to get it.
Right.
And that SpongeBob is, that Squidward is going to yell at SpongeBob.
Yeah. Mr. Krabby.
But SpongeBob's still going to do his thing. Yep. I mean, it's going to be the same.
Right.
So we don't have that anxiety produced. And at the end of the episode, like I said, everything's going to be okay. So you've got that optimism. And it becomes this joyful escape.
Right.
From real life. And that's why most people are starting to see people prefer cartoons to sitcoms.
Yeah, makes sense.
And now, if you prefer sitcoms, absolutely go for it, 100%. If that's your happy place, then 100% go for it. But for those of you who sometimes might get a little criticism for watching cartoons as an adult, I'm here to validate you and say that there's a reason why we do that. And it's to help alleviate some of those feelings.
Right. And it's a positive break from the negativity that sometimes surrounds us. Yeah.
Right. So can we use cartoons in our everyday life to handle our anxiety? Taking a break and watching a couple episodes of SpongeBob or whatever cartoon you identify with can kind of help alleviate those anxieties. So I encourage students to, an episode of SpongeBob, if you just take the one single piece, because usually there's two sections in each episode. I don't know what you call those, 2 acts.
2 acts, yeah.
I don't know what you call it. But you can look up and get just a single piece. And if you take that single part, that's 7 minutes, that's an easy thing to watch before you go in and take a test. Mm-hmm. Or when you're feeling a little bit of anxiety. It's just 7 minutes. It's not that long. Give yourself space to enjoy it for a couple minutes. Don't judge yourself. Just say, hey, this is something that helps me relax. And don't beat yourself up because it's a kid's cartoon, and don't let that negativity that other people might give you about it being a kid's cartoon get in your head. If you enjoy it, it's an adult cartoon.
Right.
And don't judge that you're not being productive, because that's the other piece that you get is a lot of people are like, well, I could be doing this and I could be doing that. Doing the things that you like to help just disperse with some of those negative emotions, that's going to 100% make you more efficient at doing things that you need to do later. Right. You're going to be more efficient.
And I think that's part of establishing a well-being plan for yourself.
Absolutely.
A lot of times we get so busy in our day-to-day tasks that we don't take a minute for ourselves. And even just take a mindful moment. We did, here at Student Wellbeing, we did a Monday mindful moment.
Yes.
We did an entire series on mindful moments. And it wasn't, long things that we did. It was just 90 seconds of a mindful moment. Some of them were tips and ideas. Some of them, would take you longer than 90 seconds to do them. But some of them were just very brief interactions. But all those are things for your well-being. And so if you're intentional in doing mindful moments, whether it's a few minutes of SpongeBob, or whatever you intentionally do within your plan, those are mindful moments that help you reset, that help you charge your well-being, which are all part of emotional regulation techniques.
Absolutely. It will help you a great deal in managing your stress and anxiety levels.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so cartoons, they're not for everyone. So if you're not a cartoon person, there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But if they work for you, like I always say, you do you.
Yeah.
Do what works.
Yeah, absolutely. So all those years of watching Scooby-Doo and the positive effects they've had on my mental health. Woohoo, never would have thought about it, but they have. And now I'm an avid CSI fan.
And now I can watch all of my favorite cartoons with no guilt.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I mean, just knowing that they've had a positive effect on my mental health, it's good to know.
Yep. So, well, thank you for joining us this week, Miners, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
For more information about mental health and wellness, contact Student Wellbeing at 204 Norwood Hall. And you can also give us a call at 573-341-4211.
The song Happy Days is brought to us by music from www.free-stock-music.com. You can also add and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook using our handle at S&T Wellbeing.